Hey guys, King of Charman is here. Alright, so you're here because you're here to analyze the chicken cup. I mean, yeah, the why? Like why? Like why? That's all I have to ask after analyzing this meta is why? Why a flying cup? Like I can't even get excited because of this. Like this is like the most bland and dumb. It's something, I suppose. It's something, but who's the flying cup, really? Like, okay, I'm just gonna be that. Why? Like, I'm just like asking, like, this is like 30 seconds of me saying why, but seriously, that's what it is. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm pretty sure you do know, this is the new cup called the Flying Cup, where only flying Pokemon are allowed with flying types. So, with that being said, that means how many flying Pokemon are in Pokemon Go right now? A couple of legendary birds, Dragonite, Charizard, I don't know, Gyarados, because Gyarados is a flying type for some odd reason. But yeah. So there's not a lot of Pokemon that are eligible for this cup actually. So I'm just gonna let you guys take a look at the well let's just get to it. This is how speechless I am just because this is a very dry cup. It's let's get started. All right. So presto, behold, it is now finished. The gigantic freaking list of random flying Pokemon. Okay, so these are like all the relevant Pokemon I could think of. I just put them together in one big list. You could, and poof, I got it. All right. So we're gonna assume that everything is in Master League, just because we didn't see Flying Cup come out for Ultra. So what I'm guessing is that, and I think on the list, like we mentioned before, it's gonna come out during this time. So everything's gonna get maxed out along with Master League. So you're gonna have Masters Premier, you're gonna have Master League, and then you're gonna have Flying Cup. Now, the thing about the Flying Cup, and the reason it's a sick joke. Here's Master League. Here's the one shield. And we're just gonna run it. And as you see, yeah. Hi, Aerodactyl. Look at everything it's... Yeah. Yeah. Aerodactyl just, like, mauls pretty much everything in existence. Most of the things we'll lose in the ones. We'll analyze the twos after this, but still, Aerodactyl with Rockto is more than enough to just shred through most of the meta. Especially with Rock Slide as a second move, and it's just absolutely, it's just so oppressive. That's basically it. Rock Slide and Earth Power is like this. It's like death. Bravery gets yeeted a lot. So Bravery will just get annihilated. So for all of you that are hoping that Bravery is actually still a really good mon, or like something like, I hate to break it to you, but poor Bravery ain't gonna be brave in the Flying Cup. In fact, he's going to be bravely destroyed and annihilated by more than half of the meta. It's going to be an absolute like destruction. Yeah, Bravery's dead. Articuno, since Articuno is ice, flying types are weak against rock, ice, and electric Pokemon, well, depending on the dual types, etc. But for the general part, is the Aerodactyl and Articuno are very strong. As you see here, Articuno wins a lot of matchups. The exception Charizard, of course, gets freaking Charizard because Ice is weak to Fire, and then, electricity just turns chicken into fried chicken. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm done. Okay, yeah. So, anyways, as you see, an Aerodactyl, obviously Aerodactyl is just going to rock through the poor Articuno to death because, unfortunately, Ice and Flying is double weak against Rock, and yeah, and you know what's funny? It's even worse when it comes to Moltres. As you see, poor Moltres is absolutely just destroyed. Well, actually, Moltres dies faster than Articuno because Fire and Flying are both weak to Rock, and Moltres is squishy and Articuno is semi-tanky, but as you see, it just gets obliterated. As you see here, Moltres, like the two kings are like, yeah, basically anything that, okay, so just to summarize this in a short, like, nutshell, because this is going to be a really long video otherwise, I'm still going to go down the list, but anything that Flying is weak to has incredibly strong matchups, particularly Aerodactyl, Articuno, Zapdos, and then you got a whole bunch of randomness in the back. Dragonite, because Dragonite is such an oppressive mon, Dragonite is very powerful. As you see, Dragonite just absolutely roasts this. I haven't seen the Shadow one. I'll probably pull shadows, and then we'll look up some shadows in a bit. But as you see here, they just absolutely, like, Dragonite is very powerful. Gyarados is also very powerful. As you see, Gyarados wins a lot of one-shield matchups, which is pretty nuts. This is a Dragon Breath variant, by the way. As you see, the Dragon Breath variant is considerably better than the Waterfall variant. Now, the Waterfall variant, the funny thing is the Waterfall variant, like the Waterfall variant actually beats Aerodactyl, but that's pretty much it. Aerodactyl pretty much, like I said, runs through the line. But it's going to lose it. But Gyarados with Waterfall will oppress Aerodactyl. So if by all chance this is an Aerodactyl Dragonite Gyarados lead or something like that, pretty much everyone's going to run Aerodactyl to either counter that or just some sort. Yeah, you can expect to see a lot of things. Ironically, even though this is the Flying Cup, that's going to be whatever. The Flying Cup is basically the Flying Cup, but what is weak to Flying Cup? That's basically what the Cup is. It's not, yeah. What is weak to Flying Cup? That's basically it. And has Flying typing. That's what you see over here. But as you see, like I told you before, the big three, the BBML, in my opinion, is Aerodactyl. You have Zapdos, obviously, because Thunderbolt, Thundershock, Thunderbolt generate very quickly. Aerodactyl, Zapdos, and then you got like a mixture of Dragonite. Yeah, you got a mixture of Dragonite. Please don't bring Salamence. Salamence gets absolutely annihilated by most of the meta. By like most of the meta. If you look here, Salamence dies. Yeah, Salamence dies a lot. A lot. A lot. If you by chance want to bring a Drifloon, I very caution you, it will die very quickly. Poor Crobat gets absolutely destroyed. You get, I put Butterfree here as kind of like a meme, but as you see, poor Butterfree doesn't have a chance. It just turns it just turns into Ash, get it? But ironically, if you watched the anime, Butterfree never came back to Ash. We never got Butterfree back, unfortunately. Poor So bye-bye Butterfree. That's basically it. But as you see here, yeah. So that's just the one shield. So the one shield, the Dominator is Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl, you got anything that oppresses flying is very good, especially Aerodactyl, just because Rock Throw. You literally Rock Throw everything to death. That's the one shield, and then you got the two shield. So some people have tried to convince me, like, oh no, there's going to be a little bit of spice, and I'm like, not really. If you bring Aerodactyl as your lead, you win pretty much against everything. Like, it's gonna be, as you see, Aerodactyl into 2 shield against everything I picked here. Now, by all means, I put the strongest, I repeat, the strongest flying types in the meta, and I popped it in here. And the only Mon that beats Aerodactyl is Gyarados with Waterfall in the 2s. So that means the only Mon out of this entire list that will beat Aerodactyl is either itself, if you have like a best buddy one, or if like there's some kind of bulk or breakpoint, we'll look into that in a sec, or you just lead with Gyarados. So in either words, Aerodactyl is a very, very safe lead unless you use Gyarados with Waterfall. Because Gyarados' Waterfall yeah, it loses the 2s. Now the one shield is a different story, but as you see here, if you lead with Gyarados, if you lead with Gyarados, Gyarados beats a lot. And Gyarados, as you see, Gyarados, if we move to Gyarados in the 2s beats a lot of stuff with its Waterfall variant. You lose against stuff like Dragonite Waterfall and the Dragon Breath and just because it's resisted. So anything that Waterfall resists, it will be die. Especially also Togekiss also beats it. So like I said, in the 2 shield, yeah. So your safest lead, like this is the only meta I've ever analyzed where, for sure, there's gonna be like 2 leads. Now you can play around them. You can try to be spicy. You can pivot. You can relight. You can do whatever you want. You can try to be fancy. But the reality is, it's Aerodactyl or Gyarados. That's literally what it is. These are the strongest flying types in the game with optimal resist. Now that's not considering Shadow. There is no Shadow Aerodactyl. There is a Shadow Gyarados. So we'll look at Shadow Gyarados. We'll look at Shadow Dragonite. We'll look at all the relevant shadows in this cup. But for the most part, as you see, the regular variants, Aerodactyl just... It's just, you know, you throw rocks at things and then they just die. But as you see here, yeah, it's Aerodactyl thing. Aerodactyl. In the 2s and everything else that's interesting, Articuno still wins a lot in the 2s, especially just because of Icy Wind. So Aerodactyl in the 2 shield will will lose against, yeah, Aerodactyl beats just basically everything on this list. So in the 2 shields, Articuno gets owned, etc. Yeah, Articuno beats a lot of relevant matchups. Keeley is Dragonite. However, it does lose against Gyarados on both variants. And of course against Charizard. So surprisingly, Charizard, if you look at Charizard oh wait, oops, I apologize. As you see here, a lot of red for Articuno, a lot of red for Zapdos, just because of Thunderbolt Thundershock. So, yeah. And Dragonite, as you see, is incredibly impressive. Dragonite, Gyarados, and Aerodactyl, and I think Zapdos like run this meta. As you see, Dragonite has a lot of strong matchups against the majority of this list. And of course, we already covered Gyarados. And Togekiss as well. Togekiss beats a lot of these matchups. So Togekiss will only lose to Articuno and to Aerodactyl. However, most people are probably going to bring Aerodactyl. This is assuming you have a perfect Aerodactyl. Okay, so the saving grace with Aerodactyl is that if you have a perfect or like I'm pretty sure not a lot of people thought about like, oh, I like perfect Aerodactyl would be useful unless you're a collector. As you see here, it is useful. So scratch what I said about 2 leads. There's 3 leads. So Togekiss, Gyarados, and Aerodactyl. Those are like 3 really safe leads. As you see here, Togekiss. I actually didn't know Togekiss was this oppressive for this meta. It does a pretty dang good job to beat everything but 2. Like, there's only 3 mons I see on this list that beat 2. Only. Well, actually, Togekiss and Aerodactyl are the only ones with like 1 and 2 weaknesses in like shields. So those are going to be incredibly impressive. Butterfree just dies to everything like we covered before. Gliscor has some play. Drifblim is kind of you can kind of see some use, but it loses to Aerodactyl, it loses to Togekiss, and it loses to Gyarados. What were they? The 3 most common leads. So, yeah. Yeah, that's basically that in 2 shield. Now in a no shield. Now this is where there's some saving grace. Everything has shield scenarios. So what did I mention? Gyarados, Togekiss, and then Aerodactyl. Now, put it in a no shield scenario, and some Pokemon do have a chance, as you see here. Aerodactyl will lose against some matchups in the 0 shields. However, Rockto is very impressive, so in the 0s, most of everything will beat by Zapdos. The only thing that beats Zapdos is Dragonite. In the 0s, Lugia gets destroyed. Lugia loses a lot of matchups. Let's see what else loses a lot of matchups. Rayquaza just absolutely gets annihilated. It seems like the save Gliscor loses almost every scenario. So it looks like the only one that's actually like really good in the 0 scenario would probably be Zapdos. So you can look out for Zapdos to be a monster as well in the 0s. Zapdos, Honchkrow actually surprisingly has some play. Do I recommend you use it? No, don't use Honchkrow in Flying Cup. And this just shows you just how pretty much as I want to hype up variety for Flying Cup, it's like rock paper. It's a pretty, assuming everything is what we see here, it's a pretty RPS meta. And the top Pokemon are pretty impressive. Now there is some hope. This is only the regular version. Now we're gonna take a look at Shadow Pokemon. All right, so I put Shadows in the 1 shield and the 2 shield just to see how strong they are against the meta, since like I had someone ask me about Shadows. Shadows are very powerful. As you see here, Zapdos Shadow beats a lot of things. Ironically, in the 1 shield, this is the 1 shield, Shadow Dragonite has some very strong matchups. You beat a lot of things. You beat a lot of things. But there's a lot of like red. So Shadow Moltres, I don't think you will ever use Shadow Moltres. Shadow Moltres is expensive. And you need to elite TM it for Sky Attack. So unless you got a Hundo Shadow, which is very unlikely, I wouldn't even use it at all. That's a lot of waste of resources. Shadow Zapdos, out of all the Shadows, seems to have the most promise here. As you see here, Shadow Zapdos beats a lot of things on this list. It even beats Aerodactyl, surprisingly.
It beats a lot of things on this list. It doesn't beat Dragonite. It doesn't beat Rayquaza, which it's not supposed to. And then Gyarados in both variations. Gyarados Shadow Waterfall actually beats a lot of things. So Shadows are very limited. That's the one shield, this is the two shield. So we're gonna run the two shield scenario. As you see here, Shadows, Aerodactyl still beats all Shadows except for Shadow Gyarados because of Waterfall. The Waterfall variation. Shadow Gyarados actually beats a lot of things in two shields. So use Shadows at your own risk. I would definitely take a look at this a lot more. Like I would run your Shadow on the Matrix and then see how would you like it. But to be honest with you, with how expensive Shadows are, and the only thing that would be really useful is probably Shadow Gyarados with Waterfall, where regular Gyarados, yeah. It's not likely you have a Shadow Gyarados that's 100 IV. And even if you did, it's not like I don't see any benefit of using this one versus the regular version. Or at least I don't see it. So Shadows, you can, but are they worth it? Not really. If you just run it against the list, yeah, not really. They're not really worth it. Shadow Dragonite can have some promise, but if you run into the wrong, if you run into any of the like leads that I mentioned, like Togekiss, Articuno, or Aerodactyl, which you lose pretty much against all of them. How about the Zero Shield? Maybe the Zero Shield will show some promise. And it kind of does. So Shadow Zapdos in the Zeros beats everything but Zapdos, Dragonite, which of course Salamence, all the dragons. It beats everything but the dragons, which again, totally not worth it. Shadows don't seem to be worth it at all, guys. In other words, like you can invest in Shadows, but I would say double check and then take a look at your matchups. Because yeah, I would double check your IVs to the T. I would go here. Yeah, I would check your IVs to the T. I would go here and I would do advanced stats, check your IVs, and then because it's not going to be perfect. So just take a look at it and see what it matches up. But like I said, it doesn't look like Shadows are really worth it. Alright, so Aerodactyl, Gyarados, Togekiss, and Dragonite are very strong in this cup. Again, it's very unknown like which league it's going to actually be in. So with that being said, I'm just going to assume everything is Master League because we haven't seen Ultra League yet. We haven't seen it in Great League yet. So there was no mention of it. There hasn't been a mention of it yet. Or even if it's even going to happen. But whether it is, those four are very strong. And Aerodactyl in all three leagues is still very powerful. So, and that goes to my point number two. There's not a lot of spice in this meta. The Flying Cup is basically a rock, paper, scissors fest. And you can expect to see a lot of Aerodactyl. Now, it's very unknown how this thing's going to work. Like I said, it's a special event, so it's kind of an unknown. Because of that, I'm not sure how that the cup is going to work. Because of that, it's going to be interesting. So if you're trying to get to rank 10, I would be very careful because even if you do Flying Cup practice per se, it's just gonna be really interesting. I would definitely go on pvpoke.com and like do some practice and like try to figure out what you want to do. But other than that, I hope you guys please like and comment if you guys have any questions. Thank you guys for watching, and then I'll be doing a more of an analysis just on how dominant Aerodactyl really is, probably later down the road. But other than that, you guys have a wonderful day, and make sure you guys tune in for my next video. And I will see you guys on Twitch. If you want to see any of my streams, I will be on Twitch, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.